Hello everyone, my name is Komang Riandi Adnana Saputra with sequence number 1 and my last 3-digit student number is 005. Materiality assessment is an essential part of sustainability reporting because it helps companies to identify the most relevant sustainability issue for their business and stakeholders. Company cannot simply report on social, environmental, and governance program, but they also need to explain why certain issues are considered important to disclose. In the banking sector, materiality assessment is especially important because a bank's sustainability impact extend beyond internal operation to financing decision, investment, digital services, customer protection, and support for specific economic sectors. A bank's credit decision can influence energy transition, MSME empowerment, financial inclusion, as well as environmental and social risk management. PT Bank Mandiri Persero Terbuka is relevant case for analysis because in its 2025 sustainability report, the company adopted the theme Shaping a Sustainable Ecosystem, Synergy for Sustainability Leadership. This theme reflects Bank Mandiri's positioning not only as a financial institution, but also as a driver of a sustainable ecosystem that supports a low-carbon and inclusive economy. Bank Mandiri emphasizes collaboration with a wide range of stakeholders, including business actors, regulators, investors, communities, government agencies, industry players, and international organizations. This stakeholder engagement is closely linked to the materiality assessment, as inputs from various parties are used to identify the sustainability issues considered important to both the company and its stakeholders. However, materiality assessment should not be viewed merely as a list of material topics in a sustainability report. The process needs to be critically examined to determine whether stakeholders are genuinely involved or if it functions mainly as a formal compliance exercise with reporting standards. A robust materiality assessment should clearly demonstrate the connection between stakeholder inputs, the selection of material topic, and the company's strategic action.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Vinowenko with last 3 digits of my student ID is 180, and in this section I will talk about theoretical framework that we will analyze Bank Mandiri's materiality assessment using 4 frameworks, which is GRR3, stakeholder theory, legitimacy theory, and impression management theory. First, GRI3. This theory states that material topic should be based on companies' most significant impacts on the economic environment and society. Meanwhile, stakeholder theory emphasizes that materiality should consider stakeholder concern, not only management interests. However, theory also encourages us to be more critical. In Bank Mandiri's sustainability report, the company explained that it follows GRI standards, involves stakeholders through questionnaires, and links materiality assessment to its sustainability strategy. This suggests a structure and complement reporting process, but using stakeholder theory, we can question how meaningful this engagement actually is. The report mentioned stakeholder involvement, but important details remain limited, such as the number of respondents, stakeholder selection method, or how stakeholders' input directly changes material topic decisions. And using legitimacy theory, another question emerged: are the selected topics driven mainly by real sustainability impacts or by the need to maintain reputation and public trust? Bank Mandiri strongly highlight positive themes such as sustainable finance, climate initiative, digital inclusion, and ESG performance, and disconnect to impression management theory, which suggests that companies may emphasize favorable sustainability narrative while giving less attention to controversial or negative issue. For a bank, this could include more transparent discussion about financing exposure to high risk or carbon incentive sectors. Therefore, our analysis does not only examine whether Bank Mandiri meets reporting standards. The key issue is whether its materiality assessment reflects substantive accountability or mainly formal compliance support by a carefully managed sustainability image.
Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Fatir Tadiansyah with my three last digit number is 275. I'm going to explain about the Bank Mandiri Materiality Assessment process as presented in its 2025 Sustainability Report. Materiality assessment is also obviously an important part of sustainability reporting because it helps a company determine which sustainability issues are the most significant for the business and its stakeholders. Rather than reporting every sustainability issue, companies are expected to focus on topics that have the greatest environmental, social, economic, and governance impacts. According to the report, Bank Mandiri incorporates stakeholders' engagement into its materiality assessment process. The company gathers input from various stakeholders groups, including employees, customers, regulators, communities, business partners, and academics. This information is collected through engagement activities and materiality questionnaires to identify sustainability issues that are considered important by both stakeholders and the company. Based on this process, Bank Mandiri identified several material topics such as sustainable finance, climate risk, management, financial inclusion, digital banking and cybersecurity, customer protection, employee development, governance and compliance, community empowerment, and support for MSME. These topics are closely related to the bank role as a financial institution and its impacts on society through financing and investment activities. However, the report also has some limitation. While Baumann explained that stakeholders were involved, it does not clearly disclose the number of respondents, how stakeholders were selected, or how their feedback influenced their final material topics. As a result, the overall process appears structured, but the transparency of the methodology could be improved. In conclusion, Bank Mandiri demonstrated a formal and systematic approach to material assessment. However, providing more detailed information about stakeholders' participation and decision making will further strengthen the credibility of the assessment and the sustainability report as a whole.
So, hello everyone. So, my name is Daniel Sanjayo with student number 23075311139. So, in this section, I would like to discuss the material topics identified in Bank Mandiri's 2025 Sustainability Report. So, in this part, Bank Mandiri actually highlights some several key material topics. So, including sustainable finance, climate risk management, financial inclusion, digital banking, and cybersecurity, employee development, governance and compliance, community empowerment, and support for MSMEs. So, overall, these topics are highly relevant to the banking industry because banks influence economic, social, and environmental outcomes through both their operations and financing activities. So, among these topics, sustainable finance and climate risk management are particularly important. As one of Indonesia's largest banks, Bank Mandiri has significant influence through its lending and investment decisions. The report shows that the bank is expanding green financing, integrating ESG principles, and strengthening climate risk assessments. These initiatives demonstrate a commitment to supporting the transition towards a more sustainable economy. However, from a critical perspective, the disclosure could be strengthened by providing more detailed information about sectors that may still create significant environmental risk, such as high emission industries. Without this information, climate risk management may appear more as a general commitment than clear evidence of changes in financial practices. The report also emphasizes financial inclusion, digital banking, employee development, and community empowerment. So, yes, it is crystal clear that these topics are highly relevant because they support customer access to financial services, strengthen cybersecurity, improve employee capabilities, and contribute to broader economic development. So, to conclude this section, yes, the selected materials are generally appropriate and aligned with Bank Mandiri's business activities. However, some transparency are still in greater need regarding the negative impacts, sustainability challenges, and financing trade-offs that will also provide a more balanced and credible sustainability disclosure. So that's all for my section. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Aurelia Zahra, with my last three digit of student number is 101. So for the critical evaluation, based on the sustainability report of 2024, Bank Mandiri has implemented a formal materiality assessment process by identifying material topics through stakeholder engagement and internal evaluation. The company states that material topics are determined based on their significance to stakeholder and their impact on the company's business sustainability. At first glance, this approach appears to align with the principle of GRI number 3, which is about material topics 2021 and stakeholder theory. However, from a critical perspective, compliance with reporting standard does not necessarily guarantee substantive accountability. One of the key principles of GRI number 3 is that material topics should be identified based on actual and potential impacts on the economy, environment, and society. While Bank Mandiri disclosed several material topics such as sustainable finance, climate risk management, financial inclusion, governance, and employee development, the report provides limited discussion regarding negative impact associated with its financing activities. For example, sustainable finance and climate risk management are presented as high priority topics. These issues are undoubtedly relevant for a financial institution because banks indirectly influence environmental outcomes through lending and investment decisions. Nevertheless, the report provides relatively little information regarding sectors with high environmental risk that may still receive financing. Without greater transparency regarding these potential impacts, it becomes difficult to assess whether the material topics reflect the most significant sustainability risk or primarily highlight positive aspects of the company's activities. From the perspective of stakeholder theory, materiality assessment should balance the interests of various stakeholder groups rather than prioritizing the interests of management or shareholders. Bank Mandiri explains that stakeholders were involved through questionnaires and engagement activities. However, the report does not clearly explain the number of respondents, stakeholder selection criteria, or the weighting of different stakeholder groups within the assessment process. As a result, it is difficult to evaluate whether stakeholder input genuinely influenced the final selection of material topics. Furthermore, the report provides limited evidence of how stakeholder feedback was translated into specific strategic decisions or policy changes. This raises concerns regarding the existence of a meaningful feedback loop. While stakeholder engagement is disclosed as part of the materiality assessment process, the report does not clearly demonstrate how management responded to stakeholder concerns or whether any material topics changed as a result of stakeholder input. Legitimacy theory also provides an important lens for interpreting these findings. Materiality assessment may function not only as a tool for identifying significant impacts, but also as a mechanism for maintaining corporate legitimacy. The strong emphasis on topics such as financial inclusion, ESG integration, and community empowerment may strengthen Bank Mandiri's sustainability image. However, the relatively limited discussion of controversial, negative, or conflicting sustainability issues suggests the possibility of selective disclosure. Overall, Bank Mandiri's materiality assessment demonstrates a relatively high level of formal compliance with sustainability reporting standards. However, the evidence presented in the report is less convincing in demonstrating substantive accountability. While the company discloses material topics and stakeholder engagement activities, greater transparency regarding stakeholder influence, negative impacts, and decision-making process will strengthen the credibility of the materiality assessment. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Greetings everyone, my name is Darren Christian Nagabasargi with the last three digits of my student number Win162, and this topic I'll be explaining about the student perspective as well as the conclusion and the recommendation. So, from my perspective, a good materiality assessment should explain why certain issues are prioritized and how they connect to the company's real impacts. Looking at the Bank Mandiri's 2025 Sustainability Report, we see relevant topics like sustainable finance, climate risk management, and financial inclusion. But the report doesn't clearly explain why these topics are ranked above others, nor does it discuss any negative impacts. Then, we also believe that the materiality assessment in this report shows formal compliance with the reporting standards. However, the process still needs to be strengthened as it does not fully demonstrate transparency, the courage to discuss negative impacts, or a direct link between stakeholder input and company decisions. The report mentions stakeholder questionnaires and engagement, but it doesn't tell us how many people were consulted, how they were selected, or what specific feedback changed the bank's strategy. In conclusion, Bank Mandiri has a formal process that aligns with reporting standards, but it lacks the depth. Therefore, we offer 4 recommendations. First, they must explicitly disclose negative impacts and trade-offs to identify high risk sectors in the bank's portfolio. Second, they should provide detailed stakeholder engagement data, including the numbers, the selection criteria, and a summary of how feedback changed priorities. Third, they should demonstrate a direct feedback loop with examples of stakeholder concerns leading to actual changes. And fourth, they should adopt a more balanced reporting narrative that openly discusses challenges and unresolved issues. Therefore, by implementing these recommendations, Bank Mandiri can create a materiality assessment that is more transparent, accountable, and useful for all stakeholders. So, that is all for my part. Thank you for paying attention.